In the picturesque neighborhood of Palisades, California, Susan Salser and her husband, both in their 80s, had always enjoyed the peace and quiet of their retirement home. Surrounded by lush gardens and tall trees, their house was a sanctuary they had built over decades of hard work. But one afternoon, in January 2025, their idyllic life was abruptly interrupted. Susan was standing by the kitchen window preparing tea when she noticed something unusual in the distance. A plume of thick black smoke was curling into the sky, accompanied by the faint sound of crackling flames. At first, she thought it might be a controlled burn or a distant brush fire, but within minutes the air turned thick with the acrid smell of smoke, and she could see the fiery glow moving closer to her home. "Susan!" her husband shouted from the living room, already sensing the danger. "The fire's heading this way." Panic set in as they realized how little time they had. Grabbing her phone, Susan called 911, only to be told that firefighters were stretched thin and that they should evacuate immediately. But Susan and her husband couldn't bear the thought of leaving their beloved home to burn. Instead, they sprang into action. Years of gardening had left their property well stocked with tools, including a collection of sturdy garden hoses. Susan shouted instructions to her husband as they quickly unraveled the hoses and connected them to every available spigot around the house. The fire roared closer, its heat now palpable as embers danced through the air like fireflies. Susan focused on soaking the base of the house, drenching the wooden siding and bushes that lined the property. Her husband, despite his age, climbed a ladder to spray water over the roof and gutters, knowing that embers landing there could spell disaster. Neighbors driving by shouted at them to leave, but Susan waved them off. "We're not giving up on our home," she yelled, her voice steady despite the chaos. The battle lasted hours. Flames licked at the edges of their property, but the wet barrier they had created slowed the fire's advance. At one point, Susan nearly collapsed from exhaustion, but her determination pushed her forward. Her husband, equally resolute, refused to abandon his post on the ladder, even as smoke stung his eyes. Finally, as the fire reached the perimeter of their yard, the wet ground and soaked foliage caused it to fizzle and sputter. Firefighters arrived just in time to control the remaining flames, praising the couple for their quick thinking and bravery. When the danger passed, Susan stood in disbelief, her hands trembling as she looked around. Their house stood untouched, a miracle amidst the blackened ruins of nearby properties. "We saved it," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. In the days that followed, their story spread through the community and beyond. News stations dubbed them the fearless couple of Palisades. When asked about their decision to stay and fight, Susan simply said, "It wasn't just a house. It was our life, our memories. When it's something that important, you find the strength to do whatever it takes." Susan and her husband's courage inspired countless others, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, resilience and determination can prevail. Though they were hailed as heroes, Susan often deflected the attention. "We didn't think we were being brave," she said humbly. "We were just trying to protect what we love."